Hello everyone, in this video we will discuss about what happened in the Cavite Mutiny, who are these people and what were their participation in the Cavite Mutiny and how they were involved. Did you know that Cavite Mutiny is one of the most historical accounts in the Philippine history? In January 20, 1872, about 200 Filipinos went on strike due to the removal of privilege under the leadership of Sarmiento Lamadrid as an opposition to the forbidden paying of taxes and to the exclusion of the right to be free from forced service. The result of the strike was the arresting, trial, and execution of the priest Jose Burgos, Jacinto Zamora, and Mariano Gomez on February 17, 1872 in Bagong Bayan and now called Rizal Park, Manila. The Cavite Mutiny describes the uprising of the Filipino troops and workers at the Cavite Arsenal due to the removal of the privilege, the exemption from the tribute, and the exemption from forced labor.
The example of the exemption from the tribute is the taxation. Taxation is on where the Filipino paid taxes to Spain, and tribute or tributo is on where the Filipino were compelled to pay tribute, also called tributo, to the colonial government. The tributo was imposed as a sign of the Filipinos' loyalty to the King of Spain. Those who paid tribute were individuals between 16 to 60 years old. In 1884, tribute was nullified and replaced by the cedula. Cedula, personal identification paper. The cedula was a certificate identifying the taxpayer. It recorded his name, age, birthplace, marital state, occupation, place of residence, nationality, and sex.
In February 17, 1872, the three priests, Jose Burgos, Jacinto Zamora, and Mariano Gomez were publicly executed. They were accused and found guilty of alleged orchestrating the Cavite Mutiny of 1872 and charged with treason and sedition by Spanish authorities. They were sentenced to public execution by garrote in the same year. They fought for the rights of their fellow native priests against Spanish abuses. He was all he was also active in publication of the newspaper La Verdad on February 17, 1872. The priest executed due to the false accusations of treason and sedition, taking as a, as, taking a supposed active role in the Cavite Mutiny. The mutiny was quickly cluttered. Governor Rafael D. Icurzo magnified the incident and used it as an excuse to clamp down on those Filipinos who have been calling for governmental reform. Filipino intellectuals were seized and accused by complicity with the mutineers. After a brief trial, three priests, Jose Burgos, Jacinto Zamora, and Mariano Gomez, were publicly executed, and other Filipino lawyers were suspended from the practice of law, arrested, and sentenced to life imprisonment at the Marianas Island. Other who were implicated are Joaquin Pardo de Tavera, Antonio Maria Irgidor, Jose Basa, and Pio Basa. Tragically, the harsh reaction of the Spanish authorities were served ultimately to promote the nationalist cause.
There are two major events happened in 1872. These are the 1872 Cavite Mutiny and the martyrdom of the three priests, Father Mariano Gomez, Jose Burgos, and Jacinto Zamora, on which is it awakes the nationalism among the Filipinos. In Spanish perspective, according to Governor General Rafael Izquierdo y Gutierrez, a native clergy attracted supporters by giving them charismatic assurance that their fight would not fall because they had God's support, aside from promises of lofty rewards such as employment, wealth, and ranks in the army.
He instead that the Butini is stimulated and prepared by the native clergy, mestizos, and lawyer as a signal of objection against the injustice of the government, such as not paying province for tobacco crops, pay tribute, and rendering of forced labor. It is not clearly identified if Indians plan to inaugurate a monarchy or republic because they don't have a word in their own language to describe this different from of government whose leader in Filipinos would be called Hari. However, it turns out they would set at the supreme of the government a priest that the leaders selected would be the Jose Burgos or Jacinto Zamora, which is the plan of the rebels who guided them and the means they counted upon its realization.
And according to Jose Montero y Vidal, it as an attempt of the Indios to overthrow the Spanish government of the Philippines. Gov. General Rafael Escardo's official report magnified the event and made us of it. to implicate the native clergy, which was then active in the call for secularization. The two accounts complemented and corroborated with another one, only that the general report was more spiteful. The abolition of privilege enjoyed by the workers of community arsenal such as non-payment of tributes and exemption from forced labor were the main reasons of the revolution and the other caused liberal and republican books and pamphlets reaching the Philippines. And mostly important, the presence of the native clergy were out of animosity, bitterness against the Spanish friars, opened and supported the rebels and enemies of the state.
According to this to Governor General Rafael Izquierdo E. Gutierrez and Jose Montero E. Vidal on 20 January 1872, the district of Sampaloc celebrated the feast of the Virgin of Loreto. Fortunately, participants to the feast celebrated the occasion with the usual firework display. Allegedly, those excavity mistook the fireworks as the sign for the attack, and just like what was agreed upon, the 200 men contingent headed by Sergeant La Madrid launched an attack targeting Spanish officers at sight and apprehended Little and Arsena.
And in response to and in response to injustice, the Filipino version of the incident.
According to Dr. Trinidad Hermenegildo Pardo de Tavera, a Filipino scholar and a researcher, the incident was merely a mutiny or defiance by the native Filipino soldiers and laborers of the Cavite arsenal who turned out to be dissatisfied with the abolition of their privileges. Governor Isidro cold-blooded policies such as abolition of privileges of the workers and native army members of the arsenal and the prohibition of the founding of School of Arts and Trades for the Filipinos, which the general believed as a cover-up for organization of a political club. Tavera believed that the Spanish priors and Izquierdo used the Cavite community as a powerful lever by magnifying it as a full-blown conspiracy involving the native army, residents of Cavite and Manila, and native clergy to overthrow the Spanish government in the Philippines. It is during the time the central government in Madrid announced its intention to deprive the priors of all powers of intervention in matter of civil government and the direction of management of educational institutions. This turnout of event was believed by Tabera prompted the priors to do something drastic and in their desire to maintain power in the advantage of the incident and presented it to the Spanish government as a vast as a vast conspiracy organized throughout the archipelago. With the object of destroying the Spanish sovereignty, Tavera sadly confirmed that the Madrid government came to believe that the scheme was true without any attempt to investigate the real facts or extend the alleged revolution. Reported by Isidro and the friars, convicted educated men who participated in the mutiny were sentenced life imprisonment, while members of the native clergy headed by the Gumbursa was tied and executed by garrote. This episode leads to the awakening of nationalism and eventually to the outbreak of the Philippine Revolution of 1896.
And according to Edmond Plachot, a French writer and group complemented the Vera's account and analyzed the motivation of the 1872 Cavite Mutiny. Edmond Plachot confirmed that the event happened due to discontentment of the arsenal workers and soldiers in Cavite Fort. Also, in this time, the central government deprived friars of the power of involvement in civil government and in governing and handling universities. This resulted in the friars, afraid that their leverage in the Philippines would be a thing in the past, took advantage of the mutiny and reported it to the Spanish government as a broad conspiracy organized throughout the archipelago with the object of abolishing Spanish sovereignty. It traced the immediate cause to a peremptory order from the governor Izquierdo exacting personal taxes from the Filipino laborers in the engineering and artillery corps in the Cavite arsenal, and requiring them to perform forced labor like ordinary subjects. Until then, these workers in the arsenal had been enjoyed exemptions for both taxes and forced labor, and on January 20, the day of the revolt, was payday and the laborers found the amount of taxes as well as the corresponding fee in lieu of the forced labor deducted from their pay envelope. 40 infantry soldiers and 12 then from the Artillery took over command of the Fort of San Felipe and led cannonade to the 7th Infantry Company assigned to patrol the Cavite Plaza. However, when they returned to the 7th Infantrymen from the rampart of the fort and their comrades did not make any love to join them. Instead, the company started attacking them. The rebels decided to bolt the gates and wait for morning when support from Manila was expected to come. He gave this passionate account of it and its cost in an untried of this in the reviewed Dos Dios Mondes in 1877. He traced the narrative of the many is believed to be an order from Governor General Carlos to subject the soldiers of the engineering and artillery corps to personal taxes, from which they were previously exempt. The taxes required them to pay a monetary sum as well as the performed forced labor called Polo Y Servicio. The mutiny was sparked on January 20, 1872, when the laborers received their pay and realized the taxes as well as the pala. The fine one paid to be exempt from forced labor had been deducted from their salary.
Unrevealing the truth. Considering the four accounts of the 1872 mutiny, there were some basic facts that remained to be unbearing. First, there was dissatisfaction among the workers of the arsenal as well as the members of the native army after their privileges were drawn back by General Esquerdo. Second, General Esquerdo introduced rigid and strict policies that made the Filipinos move and turn away from Spanish government out of disgust. Third, the central government failed to conduct an investigation on what truly transpired, but relied on reports of Izquierdo and the friars and the opinion of the public. Fourth, the happy days of the friars were already numbered in 1872 when the central government in Spain decided to deprive them of the power to intervene in government affairs as well as in the direction and management of schools, prompting them to commit frantic moves to extend their stay and power. Fifth, the Filipino clergy members actively participated in the secularization movement in order to allow Filipino priests to take hold of the parishes in the country, making them prey to the rage of the friars. Sixth, Filipinos during the time were active participants and responded to what they deemed as injustices. And lastly, the execution of Gumburza was a mistake on the part of the Spanish government, for the action severed the ill feelings of the Filipinos and the event inspired Filipino patriots to call for reforms and eventually independence. Thank you. Just like and subscribe. Thank you. Just like and subscribe if you like this video.